about leverage, it's important to understand the difference between leverage and investment risk. So let's try to understand what that is. So think about $1 million that somebody uses to buy a diversified stock portfolio. And let's say that portfolio has a risk of 15%. That is purely investment risk. That is just the risk of stocks. So your $1 million portfolio you buy, it has a 15% investment risk. Now stocks can also be bought on margin. You basically need to put up 50% of the capital that's needed, and you can borrow the remaining 50%, obviously at a cost. So now if you use margin to buy stocks, you could use your $1 million to buy $2 million worth of stocks. Obviously that's now going to be twice as risky because it is a portfolio that is leveraged 2 for 1. So that portfolio would have 30% risk, and that increase in risk from 15 to 30% is what is driven by leverage. Basically leverage has doubled the risk of the portfolio. It's also doubled the expected return of the portfolio, and the risk adjusted return has stayed about the same. Simply doubling the exposure without diversification is what you get by leverage. The difference between leverage and what ampersand does is that ampersand provides higher exposures, just like in the leverage example. But in the example of leverage, the exposure is to stocks. You take $1 million worth of stocks and you add another $1 million. In ampersand, the exposure is to diversifying and hedging strategies. And because diversification is sometimes called the only free lunch in finance, this is actually a good example. The ampersand portfolio will have a potentially higher risk adjusted return than the core portfolio. So because you've diversified away some of the risk and you've potentially increased the return, your risk adjusted return is going to be higher. And this was not the case in the leverage example, where the portfolio of stocks that was leveraged twice had basically the same risk adjusted return. The ampersand portfolio actually has a higher risk adjusted return.